Hello and welcome. I am Jay, and I have a few questions for you. Did you, like me, watch Avatar The Last Airbender, the mid 2000s cartoon classic? Did you, like me, think, man, it would be so cool to be a bender, to control the elements? Well, if you did, look no further. Kind of. If you were partial to earthbending, then look no further. If you preferred one of the other elements, you may have to wait a bit. Rumble, yes, in all caps, is a VR game made by Buckethead Entertainment. And while I am sure for copyright reasons it is not earthbending, it is about as close as we are going to ever get in real life. If you are thinking, that's awesome! Well, you're right, the game is amazing. I have around 122 hours into it at the time of this review, which for me is a lot for any game, let alone a VR game. Just so you understand what I mean, that is 122 hours of me standing on my feet with what amounts to a TV strapped to my face, throwing virtual boulders around. And yes, this game is great cardio. I often end longer sessions both sweaty and tired, just like nights with your mom. Wait, I only have like 20 subscribers. I'm not monetized. Your mom. Got him. Anyways, a short game intro. It is a fighting game, kind of. It is not a traditional fighting game where you press buttons to do attacks. Instead, you put your hands in certain positions, and that is what spawns objects or applies physics to the objects that you spawn. You don't punch your opponents. You throw rocks at them in various forms. These rocks are what do the damage. Right now, the game is in early access, and thus it only has one game mode, which is 1v1 PvP. From what I understand, there is more planned, but for right now, that's all there is to do. There are a few mini games in a sort of open lobby park, but they all amount to PvP-oriented activities. So while there really is only one option, it is an incredibly fun one. The game is not perfect. It has its problems. They rear their ugly heads in two specific areas. One is matchmaking. It's peer-to-peer. If you play fighting games at all, you just shuddered, and you would be right to do so. Some of the games I have been in have such terrible lag that I can barely spawn an object. Then others, specifically when you are host, have absolutely no lag at all. The one good part about it is based on the position that you spawn in, you always know who is host. The second issue is that the game, at least at the moment, has a relatively small player base. Queue times for random matches can sometimes be quite long, especially in off hours. Sometimes you will run into the same person for multiple matches. This can lead to frustration if you are always losing to them, or even if you're always beating them. This can exacerbate the issue of lag, as people from farther away regions queue in the US East server, which is the most popular at the moment, in order to find a match. I played against a guy from Australia, and I had like a 2 or 3 second delay on all of my moves. It was an absolute nightmare. The small player base also leads to a rather large skill gap in opponents. Most of my opponents currently are either so much better than me that I can barely touch them with a disc, that is the fastest attack in the game by the way, or they are so much worse than me that it is barely a challenge for me to beat them. This is alleviated somewhat by an active community on Discord. In the server, there is a ping to fight feature. This allows anyone with it enabled to be pinged by a simple command. Then if they want to have a match, they can speak up. I have met some great people there and had some great matches. And let me tell you, having a match where you and your opponent are equally skilled is insanely addictive. It is so fun. You genuinely feel the crush of defeat when you lose all of your health or you are thrown out of the ring. But with that, you also get the absolute thrill of victory. I would also like to mention that this game is quite complicated. I personally have made like 10 videos surrounding how to play this game, from just doing the basic moves onto how to string those moves together in order to do more complicated combos. I personally love that type of game, the type of game where some mechanics aren't obvious to you at the beginning. Maybe you need to do a little outside research, maybe you need to spend a little time goofing around in the game to unlock everything that it has to offer. But if you don't like that type of game, this one might not be for you. I'd give this game an 8.5 out of 10. 1 point off for the matchmaking, and ½ a point off for the player base. The player base isn't really the dev's fault. VR games can be niche, but in a review, I really need to mention them. However, you, my dear viewer, can grow the player base. The game is $20, and it is for PC VR only. There are some plans to bring it to standalone VR, but right now, you need to be hooked up to a PC. I have no idea if it's going to be on PlayStation or not. Now, I said at the beginning of this review that I had a few questions for you. The most important of which is, do you want to be an Earthbender?